Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us to have this conversation around a very heated conversation around AI. We've got some amazing speakers today. I am Joe Serekonyane. I'm with the Belgian Chamber of Commerce in South Africa, and I will be your host together with a surprise co-host that I will introduce in a bit. And just want to give very quickly, in the interest of I'm stumbling over my words, in the interest of saving time. Uh, just some house rules. Please keep your mic muted throughout until we get to the Q&A, and then you can actually ask your question. If you would like to maybe ask your question and not forget it while the speaker is speaking, maybe you can pop it in the chat, and then we'll keep track of that. And it is best to kind of keep them concise so that we can get to as many of the questions as possible, because this whole session is about making sure that we hear your questions. So if that is all good, I will pass on to Dominique, who will just a brief intro. And Dom, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Joe. I would like to introduce Nova. She's the co-host of this event today. And she's an AI avatar. And for myself, as a filmmaker and content creator, I use AI on a daily basis. So we thought it was a great or a good idea to have a AI component. Then let's hear what she has to say.
Hi everyone, I'm Nova, your AI guide for today's journey into the future of work and technology. Yep, I'm an AI, which makes me feel right at home at an AI-themed event like this one. This webinar is proudly brought to you by the Belgian Chamber of Commerce in South Africa, and we've got a brilliant lineup of speakers ahead. Each one will share their unique take on how artificial intelligence is reshaping our world. Here's how it works. Every speaker gets 10 minutes, followed immediately by a quick 5-minute Q&A, so get those questions ready while things are still fresh. I'll be popping in before each speaker to give you a quick snapshot of who's up next. Let's dive in. First up, Lionel Moyal is the Regional Director for Channel Partners at Microsoft Africa. He is an advocate for innovation, digital transformation, and responsible AI, and is a subject matter expert on technology and AI governance.
All right, thank you, Nova. And our first speaker, Lionel, are you good to go?
I'm good to go, Joe. It's the first time I've been
right.
introduced by an AI, so it's a new experience.
It's not every day it happens. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Absolutely. I'm going to share my screen. You should be able to see it. Can you hear me? And you can see my screen. Brilliant. So I've got 10 minutes, and I think it's an interesting challenge is how do you explain AI and the state of AI in a quick 10 minutes? So
just checking if everybody can see that. I'm not having it on my side.
You don't see it? Let me try that again.
Okay, there we go. I think it's coming up now.
Okay, so you want me to...
There we go.
Okay, perfect. I think there's just one person that's not muted because I get a bit of interference coming back. But okay. So if everybody could please mute. All right. So taking you through, I think what I wanted to do today is introduce really the topic to explain a little bit about the state of AI today. What are we taking to market? What's the commercial proposition that companies are talking about, maybe demystifying it a little bit because there's so much hype. It's very difficult to separate what is hype from what is reality. And, you know, speaking to customers every day and to partners that are building solutions and technologies with AI, it's quite interesting to see the different perspectives. So I thought I would take you through one particular slide that basically talks through the journey of what's really happened in the last couple of years. And setting the context for where AI is today. At the very beginning, we're talking about, you know, the building blocks that shape large language models and that shape this generative AI that we're using today. And that's things like neural networks, things like vector databases, and I'll explain what that is because it's an interesting to understand the context. And then also something called tokenization. If you take, for example, language, and you take every word and replace it with a number, it's a very useful way for a computer to be able to understand language and to represent a word with a number. And then we talk about vector databases, which is just basically a representation of every word in terms of its connotations and its context. And this is how a computer can take language and turn it into something mathematical that it can work with. To give you a simple example, if you take, for example, a slice of pizza, you would associate a slice of pizza maybe with some cheese, maybe some tomato, maybe it's Italian, it's round. Those are different dimensions of a slice of pizza. And so, and those are things that we associate as humans. And so a vector database basically does the same association. It takes a particular object and it says, what are all the things that are associated with it? And once you start doing that, and you do that with numbers and with vectors, like you would in high school, you end up with this almost space of all the different objects. And in those different areas of space, you can find objects and how they relate. So for example, if I take a pizza and I take away its Italianness, I'm left with some kind of food. And if I add some Japaneseness to that food, I will end up with sushi. It's quite an interesting, it kind of makes sense if you think about it, but that's exactly what a computer is doing in terms of connecting the dots between different words. Now, and that's really the foundation of a large language model. Now what you do is you give it a huge amount of content. So you give it, for example, all of the internet's content, and that's exactly how models have been trained. You can get and download a curated set of all the content, of all the publicly available content that's not copyrighted, content in the internet, conversations, articles, books, etc. And you train these models and these neural networks. It works like a brain. It basically sets up these connections between words. And so it learns the connotations and the connections between different words in different language. And so that essentially then creates something called a base model. And what happens with a base model is it becomes incredibly effective at predicting the next word. So for example, if I say the cat is in the, it could be in the kitchen, it could be in the lounge, it could be in the bed, it could be in any one of those things. But if I say, for example, it's lunchtime, the cat is in the most likely word would be kitchen, because I've given it a little bit more context. And that's exactly how a base model works. Now, the next step in training these models is, it's great to be able to predict the next word, but what about having a proper conversation? So what happens is the model makers then say, let's train this further, but give it proper conversations. So this is human curated conversations. So that basically shows if you're having a discussion with between two people, this is the format of the conversation and how it looks. And so by training it on thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of existing conversations that are formatted in a way that makes sense to a human, the model starts to learn how to converse with you as well. And that is essentially what makes it very, very effective and what makes it completely simulate human language. It's the fact that it's learned the connections between words and it's learned the ability to have a conversation, and it's simulating that, it's modeling that. And that's really the first step. And if you think about what ChatGPT is, it's a model that's undergone pre-training, which turned it into a base model, post-training, which turned it into a conversational AI assistant. But then about a year ago, what we saw coming out is to say, well, it's great to have this model that can have a conversation, but we'd like this model to not just be stuck in its legacy knowledge in terms of all the knowledge that it's learned and been trained on, but what about giving it access to real-time information? So we started building tools for models. Now, a tool for a model essentially is, for example, it's got the ability to go and search the internet. So if you ask it a question to say, what happened yesterday in a particular event in terms of who won the Club World Cup match that is happening at the moment in the US. It knows it doesn't have this information, so it can use a tool, which is a search engine, and go and find that information, absorb it, and essentially get the insights that you needed and be able to give you that information. So a tool could be a search engine. It could be a piece of code. It can actually learn to code as well. For example, if you ask it a question that is mathematical, it can say, well, I don't know the answer to this, but I can write a program that can do it because I've seen it done so many times. Likewise, you could say, give me directions to get to Santon City, for example, and it can actually use a tool, being, for example, Google Maps, get the directions and return that information. So it becomes a connected AI assistant, and that is incredibly powerful. The next step after that, which we saw about a year ago, was the release of reasoning models. Reasoning models is essentially a model that doesn't just answer you in one go with the most likely answer that it thinks might be correct. But what it does is it takes a step-by-step approach, as a human would do, to say, it's essentially simulating thinking. It builds its own plan to say, well, this is a complex question. The best way to answer it would be if I first got information about this particular topic, then I understand and I connect it to information that I already have. So it builds a step-by-step plan, and then it starts to reason. Essentially, it's got this chain of thought reasoning process that it builds, and then it can check itself. So it can iterate and check itself to say, this is what I think the answer is, but is this correct? Can I double check this before I give you the answer? And that gives you essentially a much more powerful model, which eliminates these things called hallucinations, which I'm sure you've heard. Hallucinations is when a model gives you a very confident but maybe factually completely incorrect answer. The ability of having a bit more reasoning behind it gives it the ability to double check, think through its answers, and verify before it gives you a final answer. Then the last step, and this is really what's now driving the big commercial drive, is what we call agentic AI. So now that you've got models that can reason, can use tools, etc., you can have, there's nothing stopping models or AI agents, essentially is what we call them, these assistants, to start taking action. So it becomes an agent that can take an action on behalf of what you've asked it to do, for example, by interacting with software. Remember, it could use, for example, a browser. It could figure out, this is what information it's giving me. For example, I need to buy a vacuum cleaner. It's opening the browser. It's looking at the site. It's saying, this is the vacuum cleaner I've got, because I've been given instructions about a particular prompt to say, I need a vacuum cleaner. Maybe it's this make and of this particular budget. It can go add it to its cart and even check out if you wanted to do that. It's an example of a shopping agent, for example. But this is what's really transforming business at the moment, is to say, this gives an entirely new opportunity to start automating business processes inside of organizations. So this is really where we are today. We're in the age of this agentic AI. And this is exactly why you're hearing so much about the agentic era at the moment. If you think about AI, it's really just an interface into or a UI into different types of intelligence. An interface such as chat, such as video, such as audio, because I explained, for example, large language models, but equally you could explain having a conversations, inferring from a video. All of that is possible as well. You add onto that memory and context. If you've been using ChatGPT lately, you'll realize that it's actually remembering the previous conversations you've had with it. That memory is really important because it gives it additional context about who you are, what is your role, what do you try and do, and it is therefore able to help you a little bit more in your processes. It can do reasoning and planning, as we discussed earlier, and finally connect to other agents or become an agent in its own right. So from a corporate perspective, this AI transformation is really affecting four main key areas in business. The first one is about enriching employee experience. So in your everyday piece work that you do, for example, working on a computer, writing a document, building a presentation, working in Excel, you have an AI assistant that can help you. From a Microsoft perspective, we have Copilot, and I must say, I use it every single day. I've replaced it in terms of doing search. When I use search, I use Copilot instead because it brings me back not just possible links, but the insights that I need. I use it when I write a document. I use it in Outlook. It's incredible how sticky it becomes once you start to use it. So your employee experience every day in terms of enriching, helping, taking meeting minutes. And I see a whole bunch of AI assistants that are taking meeting minutes just today. So everybody's using it these days. The second piece is customer engagement. People today expect different engagement channels. They expect to engage with you in via any channel that would work for them, whether it's phone call, email, chat. But not only that, they expect a very personalized experience. And that means in order to personalize that experience, you need to get a lot of data about them. You need to infer information about them. You need to start digitizing these experiences. And this is where AI agents become so much more powerful. Not necessarily to replace human engagement, but to augment and give the person insights in terms of how much better, how much information or what your history might be, anything like that in terms of how you could create entirely new experiences in working with a company. The third piece is reshaping business processes, and I mentioned that this is about automation. There's nothing stopping an agent inside an organization that you've created to automate routine tasks. We used to call this workflow or business process automation in the old days of IT. Today, it's about creating agents that are much more intelligent, that can cope with unpredictable scenarios. And where they do need help, they can actually prompt and request for assistance as well, so that they can make informed decisions before they complete a business process. And then finally, what we're encouraging every customer to do and every partner to do that is building with technology is to say, don't just think about this as an evolution. It's actually the opportunity to completely reinvent and reimagine your business and what your business might look like. So it's about really what we call bending the curve on innovation. Your entire business can be completely reinvented. You can do things today by leveraging these tools, things that you wouldn't have attempted previously because maybe it was just too much effort or too hard, or you didn't have the tools necessary to do so. Now you can. So it's time to take a moment and rethink about what your business might look like in 10 years and reinvent and reimagine. I'm going to stop here, Joe, and hopefully we can leave some questions for a little bit later.
Yeah, we could do that. That's what I was thinking now when I was looking at the time. I didn't want to stop you because it's very informative stuff that you were giving there, and I'm sure that the people that are listening really wanted to hear those insights. So I'm thinking what we can do is whatever questions that we have now, people can just hold on to them because I don't want to have to push the schedule a bit further down, and then we end up having a bit of a time clash down the line. So if you guys don't mind holding on to your questions for Lionel, we can push those through chat in the meantime, just so that we have them. But we can move on to Nova as Nova gives us the next speaker.
Our next speaker is Jenny Onya, a distinguished AI entrepreneur. She will explore how cutting-edge AI is transforming financial inclusion for underserved communities. Featuring Halisi livestock, this session showcases how artificial intelligence turns livestock into bankable assets, unlocking credit and insurance for African farmers.
Awesome. Jenny, are you ready to jump on?
Yes, I am ready to jump.
All right, the stage is yours.
Okay, I will share my screen in a few seconds. Okay, I hope you can all see my screen. Yes? Yes, perfect.
We can see it.
Okay, good. So, good morning, everyone. My name is Jenny Ambukeni Onya, and I'm one of the co-founder at Neotex, a resource-based company specialized in artificial intelligence. But beyond technology, we believe, and we firmly believe inside our company, that innovation should serve those who are too often forgotten by traditional system. And this is why we ask ourselves daily, constantly, how we can design AI technology that truly empowers the most vulnerable. So today I would like to share a story that illustrates how we are addressing this challenge in a concrete and impactful way. So let me introduce you the profile, the person of Amina. Amina lives in rural Africa. She works like day and night to raise her cattle, which is her most valuable asset. But just in one season, a drought can happen, a disease, everything she's worked for can collapse. So what is the problem for Amina? The problem is that Amina's livestock is invisible. So for bank and insurance company, her cattle do not exist in any formal, reliable system. So there is no standardized way to reliably identify or verify the value of her assets. So when she applies for a loan, she's rejected. When she seeks for insurance, she's told she's too high risk. And Amina's story is not isolated because across sub-Saharan Africa, over 70% of agricultural production is driven by smallholder farmers, yet less than 5% of smallholder farmers in Africa have access to livestock insurance, and most of them cannot have access to formal credit. So at Neotex, we decided to tackle this issue with an unexpected approach. I have created an AI-powered livestock facial recognition to uniquely identify each animal in a reliable, traceable, and tamper-proof way. So how it is working actually. A farmer simply takes a photo of each animal using our web application. Our artificial intelligence system extracts unique biometrics feature from the animal face. Each animal is uniquely identified and linked to a digital profile that records its health, history, market value, and so on and so forth. So why is this technology a revolution in Africa? First, because the farmer can now prove ownership and value of their livestock. Second, microfinance institution and insurance company can now assess risk based on verified data. And last but not least, impact investor and policymakers can now track livestock portfolio with real-time trusted data. We have piloted this solution in several regions in Kenya, and early results are promising. Over 80% of farmers using our technology report increased trust in financial institutions, which was not the case before. Partnering microfinance institutions have noted a significant reduction in perceived lending risk, and this technology is perceived as a bridge between informal rural community and formal financial system. So with Halisi, we are not just like pushing the barrier of technology with artificial intelligence. We are really creating a path to financial stability and resilience for farmers like Amina. We are turning livestock into a bridge to opportunity, ensuring that hard work made in the farm have the support they deserve actually. So if you believe that the future of inclusive finance starts with making the invisible visible, join us, because at Neotex, we are changing lives, one call at a time. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Jenny. I see that we are still quite early for our next speaker. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to take the first question that we had, which I believe was for Lionel. And that question was, how do you see generative AI reshaping the enterprise productivity landscape in South Africa over the next 12 to 24 months? It's in the chat. Can you see that,
Yeah, I can see it absolutely. Well, I think certainly from an enterprise productivity, that is the core area. You know, I work at Microsoft, so I'll give you the Microsoft viewpoint. But that really is the biggest growth drive that we're seeing at the moment. So for example, we've embedded Copilot into every single one of our applications. It's called Microsoft 365 Copilot, but we have it also in our data and AI tools with Power BI. We have it in security. So for example, our security products have got something called Security Copilot as well that helps to identify security signals. So what you find is it's not just with Microsoft, but every single enterprise productivity application that you might be using today is embedding generative AI as additional assistance within the technology. And what it's doing is it's basically being helping you because it's got the enterprise context. So it knows what you have access to within the organization. And for example, it knows, for example, what emails you receive, who you talk to, what documents you write or you have access to. Again, it's all for your personal productivity. But what it does is having that context, it's able to become so much more useful in your everyday task. So we're seeing a tremendous growth at the moment with Copilot in enterprise. We're embedding it, and it's our fastest growing product at the moment.
Thank you, Lionel. Appreciate.
Okay, I think the next question was for Jenny. How is the livestock value determined based on current average market value? I think that was for Jenny.
Yes, thank you for the question. So basically, inside our application, we are collecting various and several type of information about the animal itself. It can be health condition, it can be vaccination history, the breed type, the weight, and so on and so forth. So all these data are actually helping us to assess the value of the cow. So basically, the value of the cow is also taking into account the context. So which location this animal is living, and also the purpose of the animal is also helping us to assess the value of the animal, which is used actually as a collateral to access credit.
Thanks for that response. I'm just trying to see. I see that there was that's not really a question, it was more a statement. Looks like the insurance of cattle already exists in South Africa, so that's not really a question. And then there's another question. What do you think will be the next step of evolution in after agents? I'm assuming that is for Lionel.
I would say, I mean, it's a good question. I think what we're seeing at the moment is robotics. So it's robots, and I'm talking about different types of robots, industrial robots that are designed for precision tasks, for example, but also human form robots that are starting to come out at the moment. They really were, it's a very complicated area to develop powerful robots that can adapt to their environments. But with generative AI and the ability to interpret video, to interpret signals from different sources and actually interpret their environment much better and react accordingly, robotics becomes so much more powerful. So we're seeing, for example, NVIDIA rolling out technologies like Omniverse, which is digital environments that simulate the real world, where you can train virtual robots essentially on how to walk, how to manipulate delicate objects, etc. Then you can take that training and basically transpose it into a real robot. And what you find is that same learning will apply in the real world. So it makes it much more cost effective to train different types of machines, whether they be human form robots or any other types of precision industrial engineering type of technologies or robots. And I think that is what we're going to see more of in the next few years after agents. Or actually, we're seeing it today already. But it's a more complex problem because there's a hardware challenge that needs to be solved at the same time.
Thanks for that response. And I think that is going to tie in very nicely later on with our speaker. And I see I've got another question here. It says, in terms of security of AI, how do you keep your AI system safe? Is this perhaps a part where human intervention and thought is necessary and irreplaceable? I'm going to assume that is for you as well.
Yeah, I think the most important when it comes to AI is it comes down to data security, making sure that you can understand the data assets, that whatever AI tools you're rolling out in your organization, what kind of data assets they'll have access to, that you've locked down, you've classified this information, you've locked it down so that you can differentiate between what is sensitive information, private information, and what is more general information. And because it's AI can very easily otherwise leak information to the wrong person that it has access to. So the underlying data security becomes the most important thing that you need to worry about.
Thanks for that. I think I skipped Mike's question there. Sorry about that, Mike. What about the legal environment? Example, AI pulls info or data from various formal publications. How do you cover plagiarism risks?
Absolutely. So I think firstly, the early models didn't really differentiate. The newer models that are coming out at the moment always bring back sources where it gets information from so that you can obviously reference it. The other thing is the data sets that models are trained on, they need to be not just indiscriminately scraping information from the internet, for example, but they need to respect copyrights. There's a lot of legal cases at the moment ongoing that will be landmark cases that will determine how copyright will be treated. But for example, if you use AI engines or AI models from Microsoft in Azure, from even AWS and Google, I think are now doing this as well. The making sure that you don't just use the models that you can get, the open source models that you get on the internet and start to build around that, but use the governance frameworks that the big hyperscalers will build for you. For example, Microsoft Azure. And the reason you do that is because Microsoft will protect you and shield you from any copyright lawsuits in case it comes to you, because we know we've put the governance around and making sure that copyrighted information can be excluded or we don't violate copyright. And if there is a potential lawsuit, then Microsoft will bear the cost of defending that, because it would have been in the underlying data sources and not the responsibility of the developer that is just leveraging the models.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that. I'm not seeing any other questions. I actually, when you're talking about issues of plagiarism and protecting, how can I say, copyright materials, I do know that there are some AIs. I'm assuming it's an AI. I've heard something about it where you can actually take your work as an artist and you can pop it into this system. And then what it will do is it will keep it as a reference point for anyone who is trying to recreate new work using AI and basically copying their specific style of artwork. I do believe that there are some advancements in those areas where people are protecting materials, copyright, and trying to not have the internet being flooded by your Ghibli situation that we had recently, which became a big thing. So I think that we're making good time. Dom, do you think you are good to go for the next one, or do you just want to take a few more questions still?
No, I think. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Let's introduce our next guest.
Okay.
And ask, of course, Nova to do that.
We'll do so.
It starts with a little video. 1 second.
All right, cool.
See the power of Robovision, the vision AI platform that turns machines into smart solutions. An AI platform that makes your machines learn faster and act smarter. Machines that see and make sense of what they're looking at. Turning images into decisions. Decisions that enable intelligent automation. Built with an AI platform that is easy to train and easy to use. Robovision is an AI platform that adapts to new environments and runs anywhere, anytime. Maximize yield, reduce waste with faster time to market. Robovision, the AI platform relied upon by more than 1,000 machines around the world.
Our final speaker today is Jonathan Berte, widely recognized as a pioneer in Belgian AI and the founder of Robovision. We're honored he could join us, carving out time between high-level board meetings and a flight to Silicon Valley. Let's hear his unique perspective on the future of AI.
I just wanted to make sure that Jonathan is indeed with us. He is, like the intro said, he is going from boardroom to boardroom. So I think he's running a little late. But I do say the response that we got from Lionel regarding the combination of AI and robots, that is the area that he is going to be addressing. And I think it's a very interesting, because it's not for him, it's not in the future, it's in the present. It's what his company is doing at the moment and industry. So I don't know if you have any other questions for the current speakers while we're waiting for Jonathan. That would be great. Another minute or so. He did say that he might be running late because he was going to be stuck in a board meeting. So, Dom,
yeah,
I was
just
going to say, just keep an eye out for him to see if he's going to be coming in.
Yeah, just a last update from Jonathan. He's exactly leaving the board meeting right now, on his way to his laptop, and hopefully in the next few minutes we'll have him live.
Yeah, I see a question has popped up in here. Yeah. How do you foresee AI impacting youth unemployment rates in the coming years? Will it exacerbate job displacement for young workers entering the market, or could it create new opportunities and help address the issue through innovative solutions? I think I'm gonna pose this to both you, Lionel, and Jenny, because you guys are the people in this space. So Lionel, can we just start with you on that one?
Yeah, I think that's the golden question in terms of what's going to happen to human labor with all of these incredible tools that are coming in and entering the market. I was looking at the Future of Jobs report from the World Economic Forum, the 2025 one that just came out. So interestingly, it predicts that more new jobs will be created than taken away. However,
Sorry. May I interrupt? Sorry for that, Lionel. We have Jonathan. He's live now. He should be able to access. I'm so sorry. We'll take the questions a bit later, but because he has a limited time for us. So, Jonathan, if you're here, please, we're ready for you.
Hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you. We
Okay,
don't have your camera yet.
Yeah, but I will share my slides. 1 second. This, let me check share. And then, do you see my slides now?
We're waiting.
Yeah, we can. I can see it.
Okay, perfect. And then I share my cameras. Sorry, I had a really important board meeting. That's why it's still going on. So, but I really wanted to do this. So let me check. Okay, so do you see me?
Yes, we can see you.
Okay, so you see the slides and you can see me.
Yes.
Perfect. So welcome everybody. I'm Jonathan Berte. I'm the founder of Robovision.ai. And we have an AI platform that lets normal people and domain experts, so no IT specialist, no data scientist, work with AI and create AI pipelines themselves. I will go into a little bit more detail about this, about how we do that. We're located in Belgium, and our robotic installations are spread all over the world, from Japan to Australia, from Brazil to Peru, Canada, everywhere people, small and big companies, are working with the Robovision platform to manage AI pipelines. And lately, we're also into oncology. We can detect the smallest tumors in the world, meaning tumors with the size of a grain of salt in the brain, which is extremely important, of course. And I will tell you more about our founding story and how we came to be. So to be clear, it's an OEM platform, meaning that our target customers are machine builders and technology providers themselves. In the context of South Africa, we would be working together with mining companies, for instance, to alleviate some of the most tough things like judgment of the materials coming out of the mine, and to do that in a very robust way. So the domain experts, the mining experts, would be able to judge that themselves. Other things in South Africa or in Africa are, of course, agriculture, everything related with plants and so on. So we have a lot of installations also working on different aspects of plants. Now, a typical Robovision installation is a robotic installation where a very complicated task like detecting a disease together with the robotic manipulation of tulips is done. So this is a perfect example of an OEM partnership between a machine builder and the Robovision platform, where the machine builder is solely focused on creating a very robust robotic machine in an ecosystem that has its particularities, like horticulture. And then we are there to support that machine builder with OEM technology to connect the dots and to let the cameras speak with the robots, so to say. So the way we were actually, we grew was most of all in horticulture. So we started out with the stem cutting robots, planting plants, as you see in the left top corner, and building robo farms together with our partners worldwide. Also lab related stuff like tissue culture handling, very important nowadays with a lot of disease pressure in agriculture and horticulture. We see a lot of potential and future there. And for the rest, the harvesting market. So we're now the #1 harvester in the world doing tomatoes. We're enlarging that to cucumbers and to bell peppers. But also there, the Robovision platform is quintessential to support harvester companies to do that and to make sure, and that is an important USP, that farmers and growers are able to train their own level of confidence. They can say, this tomato is really ripe now, and a farmer or a grower in South Africa will have another judgment than one in Canada. And that's why the Robovision platform is so important, because that judgment is done by the domain expert, by the mums and dads of the mum and dad companies. So really by non-technical people that go towards an iterative loop of judging images and explaining in a very human way how the AI works. So in a way, the Robovision platform is always a central platform where you can train pipelines, and at the other side, it is a local edge deployment where we have low latency, where the edge box is running with the robot, with the harvester robot within the greenhouse. Really important. So obviously, and that of course is already clear, it's a vision AI platform in an industrial context, very often with machinery, but also very specific lines like mining and oil and gas and oncology, which is of course less robotic. So we see ourselves as team. We have a team that fully onboards this AI in a complex new ecosystem, making sure that those companies, the mining companies and other companies, machine builders, do not need to hire all of these different profiles like MLOps, DevOps, agentic AI specialists, and so other, because we can deliver those components in an OEM-like way. And we're in this phase of the AI revolution where MVPs and proof of concepts need to be scaled up. And you can imagine that many different teams of very large companies like the Bears or like Johnson & Johnson, they have their own islands of automation. They have plenty of people, PhDs and data scientists working, but they all have their own habits. And at some point they leave the company. So there is at this moment, a potential legacy hell growing. And this legacy has to do with many complexities. The NVIDIA company first started as a gaming company, obviously, and the gaming ecosystem was a very fast-paced ecosystem with a lot of marketing, and we still see that in the shows of Jensen Huang. But the industrial context is more conservative. It's like Siemens. We have a Siemens S7 PLC. It's already there for 20 years, and you can still order it. So to combine these two ecosystems together with the complexities of hiring, then you have a problem of deploying AI from one MVP to many research centers in the world. So, and that's where the Robovision platform comes in. It's very easy. It's like almost like social media. You log in, you are a user, you have a certain role in the process, whether you're a data creator or a supervisor or a quality operator. You establish your role, you go through your profile, and you upload production images. You can just tell something about those production images. You can annotate them, or in text you can talk about it, and then it will go through a data curation loop. We're working on agentic AI, so this data curation loop can be helped with AI. It can be an AI assistant trimming those images and sifting through them and already making them in pre-classes. And then in the end, the alignment, and this is a very important image, it's the confusion matrix. We need alignment across all of these domain experts in a certain context. Like we need to know that a certain mass has the potential to contain a diamond, yes or no, certain rocks. And if there are 3 different opinions, the AI will get a bullshit in, bullshit out reaction to misalignment within experts. So this is in a nutshell where we are with Robovision. Typically, the images you see are from very different contexts. This is from metallurgy to see if there is like an error in the metal and to annotate it. So this is the typical action that domain experts do. You would almost perceive them executing Photoshop-like things. And in the end, all of this data is being combined on a GPU and is being trained into an industrial model. And of course, we're 2025, so there are a lot of new kids on the block. So we see ourselves as Robovision as the aggregation engine of these new technologies and to transform them into an industrial context, because the industrial context is profoundly different than the other more service-related, text-related thing. Of course, there are texts, there are log files of machines that went into failure, but to put it bluntly, the llama is not yet near the conveyor belt. And llama as a reference to the Meta open source model, of course. So we are working on agentic reasoning cores, where these reasoning cores can form the basis of true assistance in production. So if somebody comes in the morning and drinks a coffee, we can make sure that there is a Robovision agent that did the night shift and that he can talk about the night shift. There was an anomaly and we had some images that were off topic in terms of quality detection. We had some anomalies there, and it can already propose that it will run a training. It will say what the cost is. It will give an analysis report, and it will draft an email. So that is the future of agentic AI in terms of an industrial context. Because very often we go through this very contradictory situation. We have a powerful platform, but the data is inside a silo of a potential customer. And you have in between this risk, what do you do with this gray zone? As a supplier, you can say that you have a powerful platform, but you're depending on curated data. And this kind of things with agentic AI can be flattened, can be eased out. So companies like us are more prepared for to de-risk that intermediate phase. And if we go a little bit deeper into that agentic core, the log files are extremely important. And it's important to note that many of these log files can be used for future root cause analysis. And many of these root cause analyses are multi-model circumstances, in the sense that they are partly vision, partly production conditions like temperature, pressure, and other atmospherical conditions. And what in the end creates most value for an operator is to have the real reason of a production anomaly. And this is what we are working on. So to revisit that loop of innovation that I showed in the beginning, but then empowered by the tools of agentic AI. Dominique, I still have 1 minute. Is that intended for questions, or how shall I treat my remaining time?
Jonathan, thank you. Fantastic. If we have a minute, I would like to ask all of you in the audience, is there any question you have for Jonathan? Any questions? Otherwise, I would. Do you have already customers in South Africa?
No, we don't, and I would love to have them because it's such a beautiful country, and I would like to visit it as an entrepreneur and already talk about opportunities. So if you see fit, if you know how to help us to, for instance, bring us into connection with some of the opportunities I mentioned, like mining or other aspects of the South African economy that are relevant to our platform, please do so. The best way to reach out to me is via LinkedIn. So as a matter of how you perceive this talk, you can always ask for a connection. I see that as a compliment. And if you have something to reach out to, just send me a direct message and my AI assistant will be very happy to help you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So guys, that's Jonathan from Robovision. Thank you so much for your time.
Dominique, there was a question, and I think it's quite interesting because we've got some students from the Belgian campus.
Jonathan, do you still have time?
Yeah, I have some time. Yes.
Okay.
Fantastic. So the question is, what advice would you give to a computer science undergraduate who aspires to pursue a career in software robotics with the focus on artificial intelligence in South Africa, obviously, but yeah, maybe generally not specific to South Africa, but in terms of advice, you know, from to a student.
Oh, that's a really, it's almost like a philosophical question of where humanity is heading. And I love this question. That's why I do these tasks for the last minutes. So I would say that your own passion is most important, not what the world wants from you. Be primary in what you really want. Try to pinpoint what your real strength is, because there is still need for so many things where humans are important. But from an AI perspective, the most important thing is to let the technology land in a human context. So having this kind of empathy and insight, how an abstract piece of technology could work in a very specific environment like the mining industry or something else, that is crucial for the future and will remain crucial. Because the technology itself is of course commoditizing. Less coders will be needed, but at the same time, AI and humans will work hand in hand, either for complex projects or coding projects. So it's this human component which is contradictorily becoming more important with the years.
I see there's another question there, if Jonathan still has a bit of time for us.
Yes, yes, sure.
It's one more.
Perhaps adding on to my previous question, but for Jonathan, how feasible is it to deploy your solution in developing countries like South Africa, where youth unemployment is quite high? Could the cost and potential automation of low skills pose challenges for young workers, or do you see opportunities for job creation and upskilling to outweigh these concerns?
Oh, it's a very good question too. We had, of course, the same things in the beginning of our career in the Benelux, where salaries were much lower than they are now. And what you saw with companies where a lot of manual labor was done is that they integrated the AI with the humans, and that it became a point of pride for people that were non-technical to be interacting with AI. And they were happy to go home and tell their wives, like, look, I'm interacting with a new piece of technology, because in the end, it's about the value creation of the complete team, about all the assets of the industrial entity, the team, and also the technological components like AI. And I think that the main purpose of our platform in a context of a developing country like South Africa is to increase the value creation from an output point of view, with less human suffering, less human labor, and more quality and other constancies, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I got that. I think that is it. I don't see any other questions for Jonathan.
Okay, so please connect if you like to talk. And I was really happy. Sorry that I was a little bit later, but I had a really important board about oncology.
Yeah, I think we're happy with the time. Thank you very much for that.
Okay.
I think what should be best is anyone who would like to get into contact with the speakers that we have. I do believe that I saw that Jenny left a link to her LinkedIn profile. There are kind of opportunities to still remain in contact, and some of those questions can be answered, through that channel. And I think it's also important to remind everyone that we still have another 2 events that are still coming up. So some of the questions that might have come up that might be answered in those sessions will also be addressed there. I'd like to thank everybody for that. Thank you very much, Jonathan, for making yourself available. Lionel, thank you very much for your time. I think that is that. Dom, you good?
No, perfect. Thanks everyone to join us, and Jonathan and Lionel, that you made time for us. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We hope to see you guys in our next events. We will share dates and details on our socials. But yeah, thank you all, and have a beautiful Thursday.
And do you remember that this whole webinar was recorded? So anyone who wants to go back and look at it, it will be on the socials, the Chamber socials. So that is follow on for anyone who wants to just go and touch base again.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
All right. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.